Now, I'm going to go from there and transition into telling you guys a little story. And we're about 38 minutes into the show. I think it's time that I tell you guys a story about how this movie has impacted me in my life. And if I get emotional at some point, forgive me, guys. But and this is going to kind of be a long story, so settle in. This movie is very important to me because back in 2017, I saw three movies that really kind of just changed my life for the better. And those three movies were Logan, of course, Baby Driver, and a movie that everybody doesn't like. A lot of people don't like this movie, but you know what? I don't care. I'm going to say it out loud. Star Wars: The Last Jedi. When I saw those three movies back in 2017, those three movies changed my life for the better. And specifically Logan, because when I saw Logan, I remember walking out of that movie and just feeling so inspired. Like I tell the story whenever I talk about The Mummy. I always tell the story about how that is the movie that made me want to be a director, and that made me realize that's what I wanted to do with my life. And it is. But up until that point, I wasn't really doing anything as far as filmmaking goes. I wasn't making films as a kid. I was writing stories. I was writing novel. I was writing really crappy novels that are just in my closet, and they're completely unpublished, by the way. I've never published them because they're terrible, and I don't ever want the rest of the world to read them. Even though I'm proud of them, I never want people to read them. I think they're terrible. But I remember coming out of Logan and feeling so inspired to want to at least start writing screenplays. And about a month after Logan came out, I started thinking of ideas for screenplays that I wanted to write. And I'm getting choked up just thinking about this. This is where it was literally about 1 month after Logan came out. I was sitting in my room just kind of like thinking of what I wanted to do and what stories I wanted to tell. And I decided to start writing a screenplay. But again, I didn't know what I wanted that screenplay to be about. Until one day I was cleaning my room, which is where I used to shoot my videos. And as I was filming one of my videos, as I was cleaning my room, I found this notebook in my bedroom closet. And whenever you find something, whenever you find like a notebook or something that you wrote or worked on in the past, you get all nostalgic for it and just start looking through old things that you've had. That's what I did with this notebook. I found this little notebook and I started flipping through it, and I found a short story that I wrote. It was about two guys trying to make their first movie. And I remember reading that, and I remember thinking, this has to be the first screenplay I ever write. Now, of course, you guys know where this is leading to. That script would later go on to become the film that I am currently working on right now, called The Passion for Film. Yes, that is where the passion for film spawned from. And the only reason why I started writing The Passion for Film, I wouldn't even start writing that movie had it not been for Logan. So when I say that this movie is important to me, and when I say that it has had an impact on my life, I think of that day that I decided to write this screenplay, and the fact that 5 years later I'm about to start shooting. I'm about to go in for reshoots on this movie, and that 5 years later we're gonna release it. 5 years later, like in December of 2022, it's coming out. And I have just been like, so when I saw that Logan was celebrating 5 years, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been that long. I have to talk about this movie." And that is why this movie is so important to me. That is why I watched it again in preparation for this episode. That is why it's my favorite film in the X-Men franchise. That is why it is one of my favorite comic books. Hell, that's why it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Because it just impacted my life in such a way and gave me the motivation to want to do this. Like it fueled that drive in me and made me just say, "You know what? I'm going to write a screenplay." Because I just saw a movie based on one of the best screenplays I've ever seen put to film. And then of course, Baby Driver and Last Jedi just kind of fueled it even more and made me kind of understand how you structure screenplays. And yeah, no, I really do. That's why I love this movie. And that's why when people ask me, they're like, they always go, "Zeke, why do you love this movie so much? Why do you watch this movie all the time?" And it's because it had that impact. And I believe if you are if there's anybody out there who, like me, is an aspiring filmmaker and wants to make movies one day, we've all had those movies in our lives that made us want to be filmmakers. We've all had those movies. And Logan was one of those movies for me that made me want to start writing screenplays. Of course, like I said, The Mummy is the one that made me decide I wanted to do it. As soon as I watched that behind the scenes featurette on The Mummy, that's when it sparked that I wanted to do that when I grew up. And to this day, that's why The Mummy is my favorite movie of all time. Just based on that alone. Obviously, it's also because I love the movie so much. I just think it's a great movie. But also, it also has that impact on me, And same with this movie. This movie, look, is it the greatest movie of all time? Probably not. Obviously, when you ask anybody else, they'll probably say, movies like The Godfather are better. And hell, when you ask people about what their favorite comic book movies are, Obviously, people are probably going to go to The Dark Knight. They're probably going to go to one of the Avengers films, or they're probably going to go to Spider-Man or whatever. But for me, Logan absolutely 100% absolutely deserves to be in the conversation for the greatest comic book movies ever made.